All right, and we're pre-recorded, not live, but also exciting. Jordan, location independent. I'm here with Arpit. Did I say that
That's
correctly?
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Who is a growth consultant focusing on helping SaaS companies, that's software as a service, for those of you that don't know. He's also the community specialist at Integromat, an advanced automation tool, and a digital nomad like myself. Really excited to have you on here. All right,
Thank you.
let's just get started with what inspired you to become a digital nomad or remote
Yeah.
location independent person, and yeah, how you get started with that.
All right. Firstly, thanks for having me over, Jordan. I'm excited to be here and to kind of begin. So basically, I have been a digital nomad technically for a while, but basically I used to work from home for a long time for companies based here in India. So in fact, only my first job was the one where I actually had to go to an office, which was at Nestle India. Post that, I worked with various startups based here, and mostly they were like really early startups, and a lot of them didn't have offices. So I used to work from home. So I was like a digital nomad, but it's not like I was traveling all the time. Of course, I had to go for meetings sometimes, but mostly it was work from home, and that's how I got comfortable working by myself, and just me. It used to be me and my dog, all the time, and and that's when I realized the importance of being able to work from anywhere, because of course I could technically work from anywhere, and I loved the freedom that came with it, and it was actually more productive for me. It might not work for everyone, but it was great for me. And because of that, I actually got into the co-working space business, and then we set up a network of co-working spaces in Calcutta in India, and keeping in mind the needs of a digital nomad, or people who work from home. And there are a lot of people who work from home in India anyway. So
Right.
that's how we set it up. And our USP was that people could come and use the space by the hour, without paying upfront, without buying a monthly seat, etc. And post that, I realized that, like, although co-working is great, it's really useful for a lot of people, but somehow it wasn't for me, because I still need my own space, and I cannot work when there are a lot of people around. The open office concept doesn't work for me. So I realized that I just need to continue working remotely by myself from wherever I am, and I've been working as a consultant for a long time now, working primarily with SaaS companies, as you mentioned, and and yeah, and that's how I kind of it went on, and I took up a lot of projects with companies in various countries, the US and in Europe, etc. And and yeah, now I'm a full time nomad, and like the more you do it, the more you learn the tips and tricks, and you learn how to really be productive, because being a digital nomad, or working from home, is not exactly easy. And
Sure.
and recently I
Yeah.
wrote an article about that. So yeah,
And
that's how I got into it, and now I love it. I love it. Yeah.
nice. Yeah, we're gonna get into your article in a minute. Oh, a lot to talk about
Yeah.
today. All
Yeah.
right. So what just popped into my head is like you're saying, okay, well, you're working from home, and then, I mean, in a way, that is kind of a lot of people who do work from home then have the potential to also travel at the same time. So did you just kind
Yeah.
of like wake up one day, or you just had this idea, I'm working from home. Wait a minute, I could also be traveling too. Um, like how
Right.
did you then you just kind of decided you wanted to travel and you did that while doing the same type of work?
Well, to be honest, like after my first job, like it was a short stint at Nestle. Post that, I was like, I didn't have a lot of money to be traveling all the time,
Right.
but I was working with a startup. I was working on a travel startup myself, um, and the idea was to eventually be in a place where I could be traveling full time. Obviously, you need significant amount of money, especially when you're in India, because
Yeah.
like flights are really expensive, and if you're not earning working for if you're not working for clients abroad, you're not actually earning enough. If you're only working for Indian clients, to be honest, I mean that's how it is. So I guess that's true for a lot of other countries also. So it was an iterative process, but the idea was always there to kind of have at least the freedom to travel. I might not travel all the time because
Right.
well, you have commitments. I have a dog. I'm married, so
Oh,
there's a lot of stuff to take
yeah.
care about. There's a lot of stuff to take care about. So um, but I knew that if I keep following this path, of course, I mean, a lot of opportunities were there for me to take up a full time job. A lot of people actually, of course, and that's again probably true for a lot of others who are just getting into remote work. There's a lot of pressure from all sides where you're given opportunities or people ask you to kind of get into a full time job and stability. It really depends where you're coming from, but that's how it is here. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, like I said, it's not easy, but if you stick to it long enough and you carve your niche, you kind of know how to kind of make it work for yourself. You can make it work for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And you kind of, I don't know if you said this directly, but that's another thing us digital nomads do is, or have the potential to do, is have like more of a home base and then maybe do
Yeah,
some side trips and travels while working,
exactly.
but maybe being most of the time at home. As much as Instagram wants us to think that it's all about being sexy and working on a beach in Thailand or something like that, or
Yeah,
on the
absolutely.
on
Yeah.
the London Bridge or on whatever the Eiffel Tower. I'm doing my, but it's not always about that. That's a good
Not at
point.
all.
I'm myself. I just mentioned before we started this call. I'm about to make Berlin my home base for the at least for the
Mhm.
near future. So I'm looking forward to
Right.
that. I'll still do some traveling, but
Sure.
okay. So let's. All right. So let me ask you, what's one piece of advice you'd give to others wanting to get started doing the same thing that we're doing or that you're doing?
Okay. Well, so the most important thing, I guess, is for people to really find a niche for themselves. Like it's great to be working as a digital nomad, but you need to know what you want to do, right? You can't just try to do 10 different things at a time. So either you can get a remote job, and a lot of great companies uh,
Hmm.
are like have gone full time remote, and a lot of great companies offer remote jobs anyway. So I think that's a good starting point for anyone who's starting, because it at least gives you the stability to continue working and not like trying to find clients, etc. But if you want to go the freelance route, it's important to find niche and then build relationships. So that's what I tell everyone. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to get freelance work, and of course there are a lot of great companies that help freelancers find work easily. But a lot of those companies unfortunately keep your work very transactional, right? So yeah, I would say build relationships if you're looking to go freelance, or if you're just getting started and you have no idea how to kind of get started, try and find a remote job, a part time or a full time job. So yeah,
Yeah, to focus on one. Yeah, definitely,
yeah,
for sure. Okay, yeah, that's good. Okay, so let's get into Integromat. We mentioned in the beginning that that's what your current role is.
yeah,
So tell us about Integromat and how it can help freelancers or just people working on their own like me,
right.
and not just big companies, right? So how can what does it do and how can it
Or
help us?
Yeah, so for those of you who are not aware, Integromat is a workflow automation tool, one of the most advanced that's out there. Of course, Zapier is very, very popular, and
Yeah.
you probably have already heard about Zapier, and Zapier is great. Integromat is a lot like Zapier, but it is a lot more advanced also. So the great thing about it is that it gives you more flexibility. You can actually get started with it. You can explore all the features on the free plan, so that gives you a lot of time to play with the tool and understand the tool. And then how it can help you? Well, you can literally automate everything. You can automate your personal workflows, things like creating invoices and then dynamically emailing those invoices to your clients without actually having to do so. That's really useful. And
Mm.
of course, things like maintaining your finances, your accounting. You connect your accounting software to your wherever you're keeping track of all your finances, maybe a Google Sheet. So yeah, Google Sheet, like a Google Sheet, is the most common application on Integromat. So if and you're probably using it already. So things like populating data into a Google Sheet dynamically, or fetching data from a Google Sheet and generating an invoice and emailing it to your clients, stuff like that. Of course, if you're using a CRM, you can connect your CRM and do all kinds of things. So yeah, Integromat is really powerful and it lets you do a lot more. And most importantly, you can actually connect any web service that has an API using Integromat. So even if an app is not available on Integromat, so there are about 300 to 400 apps that are natively available. But even if an app is not available, you can actually connect to it via HTTP on Integromat. And of course, there are a lot of great features in there. So that.
Yeah, it's way too much to get into on one call, especially a short one like this. I get it. That's awesome. Yeah, I've for my job we use Zapier like all the time. And so that's why I was like, oh, Integromat, I wonder how that compares to Zapier. I wasn't going to mention Zapier, so I'm glad that you brought that up. I have to check out Integromat myself. Okay.
Yeah, you must.
Yeah, well, I will. And besides that, like, what are some other, maybe mention one or two other useful low cost or free tools that us digital nomads can get use out of?
All right. So another thing I should have mentioned is that it's really important to keep track of your time as a digital nomad, because there's a very thin blurred line between free time and productive time. So I use Harvest. So you can go to harvestapp.com, and it's a great time tracking tool. It's really important because it actually tells you how many hours you're actually working versus the time that you're spending on other things. I think Harvest is great. I wanted to mention ChatFuel. So it's basically a chatbot building tool, and it's really useful because it actually tells you a lot about. It actually enables you to build chatbots without code. Firstly, so that's a really good skill to have, and moreover, it kind of tells you more about how Facebook and the social media landscape is evolving. It's evolving so fast, and a tool like ChatFuel, or in fact ManyChat, they really help you keep up with it, especially when you're planning to go freelance. And social media is a big part of being a freelancer. You need to stay on top of things. So these tools have really helped me. So I guess and another tool I would like to mention is Station. So Station is a desktop client available for both Mac and Windows. So it's really great. You should check it out.
Okay, I'll have to link to all these in the description below when I make this a video. Okay, so ChatFuel, let me just clarify something. I'm not totally sure myself what, like you said, it's a chat bot, but like, could you explain it just like really briefly, how a little bit more? I don't really get it.
So ChatFuel or ManyChat, these are tools that allow you to build chatbots for Facebook Messenger without code. So there are a lot of no-code tools out there that actually enable anyone to really build things. And
like, why would I need a chatbot? I guess that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. So you could use it for your own personal business if you're a freelancer and you have a chatbot. So like I can share mine. It basically talks about who I am and what I do. It gives you my background, and it tells you about the services I offer, my experiences.
Okay.
So that's really cool. So it can act as a digital resume, but nice. Moreover, if you have a business, if you're running an agency or anything, having a chatbot is the way to go. At least to kind of course, it's important to have a website too, but building a chatbot and just having a link to a bot that easily tells people what you do is really great. So I think so that's been really great for me.
Okay, cool, yeah, awesome. I never even thought about that. So I'm using back in the day when I had like, I thought it was good enough just to have my own little website or web page. It was like about.me or something like that. This was a few years ago. Yeah. I was like, oh, I'm so cool. I have my own like web page. But here you taking it to the next level. Okay, now the other thing you mentioned is, let's get back to the Harvest. You're tracking your time, and that relates to this article you just wrote, and I'm also going to link to that below, about being exactly on this topic, being a digital nomad. And you had this really interesting quote you wrote there. Well, you wrote a few cool things, but especially this quote I'm going to mention. You said, the value you derive from the work should be inversely proportional to what you to what you charge your clients. So
Right.
I thought that was interesting, talking about time and money. Can you get into that
Right.
a little bit more?
Sure, absolutely. So, of course, it's very important to kind of know your own value when you're working as a freelancer, or running an agency. You need to know how to charge the right amount. But it's also important to understand the value that you derive from the work that you're doing. So that's how I kind of began charging for my services. If it's something that I thought could add a lot of value to me, if I could learn something great, I was willing to do it for less. On the other hand, if I'm doing something mundane, something that I know will not really add a lot of value to
Hmm.
me, I would charge more for it. So it's not just about having a fixed hourly rate. It's okay to have an hourly rate, but you cannot do all kinds of work for the same hourly rate. You might be specializing in one particular niche, but
Right.
you're still scrambling between a lot of different kinds of tasks, right? You could be managing like a social media page for a brand. On the other hand, you could be building a chatbot for another brand, and you could be maybe doing some other sort of automation for a third brand, right? It all falls under social media technically, but they're all different things that you're doing, and the value that you derive is
Hmm.
different, and the value that your client derives is also different for each of those things. So yeah.
Could could you give? Yeah, that's interesting because I never, as a freelancer, I always thought either in terms of like, okay, I'm charging an hourly rate,
Mhm.
or or maybe per project. Like this is the project, and
Yeah.
this is how much it's going to cost, and it's not going to be hourly. I never thought of this kind of middle ground where you're like, well, I'm charging a rate for certain types of work, certain cost certain amount per hour, and other types of work cost another amount per hour. Could you give
Right.
maybe two quick examples of what we would charge a higher and lower rate for, just to give us a better idea?
Sure. So if it's something that is like something that doesn't really teach me anything new, so that's how I think about it. It's something that I already know. I know I can do it in a few hours, but it won't teach me anything new. I would still charge my higher hourly rate. Depending on the service, I would charge as much as I would, as I could rather. But on the other hand, if it's something that is something that's kind of new to me. So a lot of people come up with a lot of requests. Can you also do this? Especially when you have when you build relationships with certain clients, they will keep asking you, oh, can you also help me with this? Hey, can you also help me with this?
Mm,
And I don't always want to say no. So when I feel that, okay, I know I can help with this particular task or project, but it might take me some time to kind of deliver on it. But once I do, I'll probably have a new skill under my belt, or I'll have something like something new that will be added to my portfolio. Then I'm oftentimes willing to do it for a lot less.
right, because you're
Sometimes
not an
even
expert at it yet, or
yeah, yeah. I
okay.
might not be an expert, but I'm doing it, and once I do it, I kind of learn a new skill, and then the next time I do it, I could be charging higher because I have
Right.
experience.
Nice. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. Okay, well, I would love, we could keep talking forever, and I would maybe
Yeah,
even have a part two to
yeah,
this,
sure,
because there's a lot more we can go into. But we're gonna have to
of
wrap it up
course.
for now. Are there any closing thoughts that you have, or final pieces of advice for other digital nomad
Sure.
wannabes?
Well, I would say read my article. I've
Yeah.
shared three solid tips in there, and feel free to hit me up on social media, or I can share my email, and I would love to kind of chat with people and understand what kind of challenges they're facing. So final advice would be to value your own time and build relationships.
Awesome. Oh yeah, and so speaking of that, what you just mentioned, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for people to reach out?
Email is great because I really believe in inbox zero, so I don't have any
Nice.
100 emails in my inbox.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm on Messenger, I'm on Twitter. So yeah, I'll be sharing all those links.
All right. If you like what me and Arpit are doing, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. I got a lot more good content where this is coming from. Probably, hopefully, a part two to this
Sure,
video. This
love
is
that.
just the tip of the iceberg getting started. Thank you so much for watching. Adios, and we will see you on the next video.
See you guys.
All right.